Welcome to Local SEO in 10. This is your go-to podcast for answers about how you can grow your local business online easily and quickly. Brought to you by local SEO experts Magnified Media in Walnut Creek, California. In each 10-minute episode, our digital marketing expert Adam Duran answers your questions on how you can get more leads for your business fast. Remember, if you're not taking care of this part of your business right now, you can bet your competitors are. And now, here's our host with the questions, Jamie Duran, and our expert with the answers, Adam Duran.
Hello, Adam.
Hey, Jamie.
How was your week this week?
It's going great. Great so far.
Lots of people super excited about local SEO.
Definitely. Always.
Getting
Everybody
good feedback
likes it.
on all the tips that we've put out the last 2 weeks.
In the last
3
2
weeks?
weeks? Yeah.
3 weeks?
I've had some good feedback saying, that guy Jamie sounds suave, handsome, stuff like that.
Well, that's a face made for radio. That's good.
So anyway, how about, and I'm not going to ask you any more questions. I have a great topic today.
Let's go.
All right, here we go. I'm going to start this with a story. Okay, this happened to us a couple years back. We took on a client, and that client already, of course, had a web presence. They were, doing well, wanting to grow. So they came to us. We looked at their website, improved a ton of it over the first, month or two. Started doing everything that we always do, creating articles, making sure everything's done correctly, and nothing happened. So no change. It was baffling. And as time went on, we started noticing that it didn't matter what we put up. So we would do groups of articles, 10, 20, 30 articles a month, and we'd get 28 site visitors.
Wow.
It was bleak. And so we started looking more deeply into this site. And when we did that, what we came to realize was that this site had been the victim of a Google penalty in its years past. And that company had never addressed that Google penalty. And so the notifications for those penalties just disappeared. But the penalty and basically the results of that penalty was that Google is just not going to rank this site anymore. And it was disturbing, sad, really frustrating for everybody. And so that's why today I wanted to talk about what is a Google penalty and how do you know it's happened to your website, and then what you can do about to fix it. Okay?
Sounds good. It sounds like a really good episode of CSI Local SEO.
Perfect. That is.
Let me take off my sunglasses and look into the camera.
Now we're going to get taken off of YouTube or somebody. We're going to have a copyright infringement. Anyway, when this happens, basically there's two types of penalties that Google does. One is a manual action where someone in Google, a human, sees something on your website and says, hey, you're trying to do some kind of deceptive thing. So bam, we're going to hit you with a Google penalty. And now we're not going to direct any more traffic to your site. And you're SOL until you fix those. How do you know that this has happened? If you have Google Search Console set up, and you should, then in that Google Search Console menu, you'll see a little, one of the menu items is security. And then under there is manual actions. And you should make it a kind of a, common thing to do is just to check that just in case. They will send you an email saying that you've been penalized in some way if that happens, and you want to throw everything on the ground and start fixing whatever it is, whatever that penalty is. It'll tell you what that penalty is about. Anything that is kind of the black hat SEO tactics. If you went to Fiverr and bought 1,000 links, that's not very good. So Google understands people do that, and a lot of times they will penalize your site for that. So any kind of spam, if your site has been hacked and suddenly starts putting out all kinds of crazy pages in other languages, Google will recognize that, and you'll be hit with that. You could get hit with that manual penalty because of that. So there's a bunch of things that they could key on to manually penalize you. You know, if you have like 1,000 pages of content with only a few words on every page, for example. I don't know why you would do that, but you know, there's plenty of sites that do that, and then they get penalized, and then they don't rank, and then the owner goes, I don't know what's going on. Right? So when this happens, so that's the manual side. When that happens, you'll be notified through that Google Search Console, and then you're going to have to address that, fix all that stuff, and then you're going to have to resubmit your site to Google. A person, an actual human who works for Google, will check your site, and then they will either say, yes, you passed, or no. And if it's a no, get ready, baby, because now you're even, it's going to be even tougher. So make sure during that first pass that you do everything that they tell you to do. Take care of every issue. Because if you don't, it gets tougher and tougher to unpenalize your site.
Makes sense, and pretty scary that Google has all that power.
Well, yeah, it sucks because different industries have different levels of acceptable risk when it comes to these kind of black hat SEO tactics, and people use them because they work. And you know, you'll say, hey, my competitor's doing whatever. Why are you looking at me? And Google will ignore that and penalize you. So you want to make sure that you do address that stuff, and you don't do the, hey, what about stuff. You just say, okay, sorry, and we'll fix it now.
Makes sense. And I imagine if you ignore those emails, Google never forgets.
Yeah. The one thing that does happen is those notifications disappear. So Google just says, okay, you never wanted to address this, so now you're never going to be able to address this. Wow. Yeah. And for us, when we took on that client, basically that's what we infer happened, that they were penalized. They could have been a manual penalty, or it could have been, another one is called an algorithmic penalty, where Google changes their algorithm in some way, and suddenly that new, by the way, Google updates their algorithm, 200 times a year. So one of those algorithm updates, your site could have been affected by it, and then you won't get any notifications, but you will have a massive drop in traffic that never really comes back. So you want to avoid these kind of black hat SEO tactics that you just want to try and avoid this, obviously, as much as possible, because when it happens, it's tough to rehab your site. Once you fix that stuff, if you do it very quickly and to their satisfaction, your ranking could increase from as little, I think I read, as 10 hours, but it also could be the other way, where it's years, where it just doesn't.
Then it's time to start a new site.
Yeah, pretty much. So basically, like I said about this client that we took on, we were like, this is, atypical, obviously. And what we brought in some more experts to find out, I brought in other friends who I know are really, they're experts in this field too. And all of them just shrugged and were like, everything is done correctly here. We don't know. Something's crazy weird with this site. What we finally found out is the site hadn't been hacked or hadn't been affected by a hack, but it shared an IP address with other sites that were hacked. So the IP address was penalized. That led to their site that was sharing that IP address to be penalized, and none of that stuff was ever corrected or resubmitted. So their site is blacklisted basically from Google. And so it doesn't matter what we put up, how much great content, how much work we did, it was never going to rank. So we did recommend that they move off of their current domain, start a new domain. We're in the process of doing all of that work and doing it safely. because we don't want the new site to get penalized for using duplicate copy or anything like that. Yeah.
And now cue the who.
Yeah, it's rough. That's right.
You solve the case.
Maybe. Well, I hope so. I mean, this was the thing about any of these changes is you do something and then you it's not like there's a light switch that goes ding, hey, good job. Everybody's happy and gives you a high five. It's you do stuff and you have to wait a month or two to see if there's any changes. You can run Google ads to those pages and those work, but nothing organic. I mean, it can be very frustrating. So big warning to you all. Don't go to Fiverr for those, 5,000 links for $1 thing. Don't do that because you're going to end up getting penalized. And once it happens, it's a hassle to fix all this stuff. The other thing is make sure that you are paying for a good hosting service. If you're paying $5 a month for hosting, that means it's shared hosting. Shared hosting means it's going to share that IP address with other sites who are other cheap people, and those sites are going to get breached. And if yours doesn't, it will be. So, and then when that happens, you get penalized too. So it is, you want to make sure that you choose a good host, stay away from the black hat stuff, and that will ensure that your site does well. I mean, it is pretty basic. Yeah. Yep. All right. That's all, Jamie. Thank you for listening.
All right. Well, that's, again, great advice. And boy, I'm sure you were paid appropriately for all of your investigative work.
Nah.
So with that, we will talk to you next week. But in the meantime, if you did appreciate this podcast, make sure to share it out with your contacts who have a website. Preferably those that are interested in improving their local SEO, search engine optimization, and their ranking in Google. Yes. And if they're having problems with theirs, where they're complaining everything they do is not making a difference, this is a perfect podcast for them. So please make sure to share that. And if you did enjoy this podcast, please make sure to leave us 5 stars, thumbs up, any kind of review that you can. That would really help our rankings for local SEO in 10. And if you have a question about a previous podcast or a topic, you can go to magnifiedmedia.net, click on the podcast button, and then you can search for any topic. And chances are we've done at least one podcast on it. Adam loves to repeat himself. So, but it takes 7 impressions for stuff to stick. So with that, we will talk to you next week.
That's all for now. Thanks for listening to this episode of Local SEO in 10 with Google local marketing expert Adam Duran. Join us each week for answers to your questions on how to best harness the power of the internet to grow your business. Speaking of questions, got some? Message us through our Facebook page, Local SEO in 10, and we'll be sure to give you your answer on an upcoming episode. This episode of Local SEO in 10 is brought to you by Magnified Media, the leading online marketing agency in Northern California, who invite you to grow your business by magnifying your online visibility and credibility. Visit them on the web at www.magnifiedmedia.com. Magnify your business, magnify your profits.